Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer member Vite Ramen. Thank you for your support. Class is in session. Hey, the rulers, welcome back after a long week of maybe multiple card games to the Office Hours, your favorite ever live at this point in time Gate Ruler podcast, featuring, for those of you who are new, myself. I am DMO73. I am the owner and creator of Ruler School TCG. I am joined by the wonderful, the beautiful Mike Rance, who is a fellow FoW player, but also a card game enthusiast just in general. And then Emilio, who is our the Force of Will Ruler School's Gate Ruler expert, joining us tonight as we talk about this brand new card game coming to the States. Emilio is right now a green block because internet is a thing and we want to be able to talk to him. Say hi, Emilio.
Yes. Hello, please bear
As I said,
my potato internet.
Potato internet's a thing. So we're here to talk about a lot of stuff. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you everyone who's new to be joining us tonight. We're talking to the Gate Ruler community for the very first time. We hope that you enjoy the content that we produce here and that you stick around for a while. We're going to be doing both Force of Will and Gate Ruler content, so we hope you find that enjoyable. If you like what we do, go ahead and consider clicking that subscribe button, as well as consider maybe joining the channel as a member. I know it's early, but we hope we earn your trust in that regard to support the channel financially, which brings us the opportunity to do cool new projects and purchase new equipment to improve our content. And you can click that little join button down below. You get access to all kinds of things like emotes, custom roles in our Discord server, and all other kinds of perks. And in general, we just appreciate you. But with that, we're here to talk about Gate Ruler. Gate Ruler, just as a quick intro for those of you who are maybe new or Force of Will players who are coming, is a new project that is being produced here in the United States by I Spy. It was designed by Ikeda, who was the creator of Future Card Buddy Fight, and is very unique in its kind of iterations of this idea of like zone, like the buddy fight era of card games. Really unfortunate that Emilio just dropped out right as I'm about to ask him to kind of explain the game. But to kind of dig into that, I'm going to actually have Emilio give us a breakdown at what is Gate Ruler, kind of what to expect, and then we're going to go through some resources and some other stuff. As always, feel free to ask any questions you have in the chat, and we'll try to hit those as best we can. Emilio, give us the rundown on what we can expect out of Gate Ruler. Maybe.
Okay. Hear me first. I kicked out for a second there.
We're good.
We're good?
Yes.
I think so.
Sorry, I'm way behind here. So, Gate Ruler is a new card game designed by the original creator of Buddy Fight. It is kind of like a mix between Force of Will and Buddy Fight, in my mind. It takes from other card games as well. It's kind of like a faster paced, easy entry kind of card game, like one where you can learn it in probably 5 minutes, but it takes a long time to get like competitively good at it. So very nice for new players.
And what are some of the things that kind of set Gate Ruler apart from like these other like Future Card Buddy Fight, Card Fight Vanguard? Like it has a similar kind of vibe, but it has some things that are pretty unique to it, specifically its take on the ruler system. Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown on that?
So with the ruler system, they're kind of the core centerpiece of the game. They're what your entire deck is built around. So each ruler is pretty unique, and they completely change how the deck is built, which is, as far as I know, pretty unique to this game. Like some rulers can only use one-ofs. They can't have multiple play sets. They all have different stats. They have completely different deck restrictions, like the level limit, the type of factions you can run, or the number of factions you with just a few different rulers. It's very cool.
So yeah, we have it up on screen right now. We have of just a few unique types, but they have plans for a lot more. And like you said, it seems like we have people who have no hand, but also no cost for cards. I'm also seeing, like you said, singletons, people who can use multiple different factions, because this game is faction driven, which is relevant when it comes to deck building, right? So in Force of Will, there's never been something like that. But in Gate Ruler, like the factions of your cards matter, right?
Yes, they matter quite a bit. I think a big part of it was for balance reasons, which I mean people will see as they start reading the cards. But yeah, you'll have five different factions, kind of like five different colors almost, and they all do different unique things. But it is kind of cool that a lot of you can run pretty much any faction you want. You're just restricted on which ones or the number that you can use. So it doesn't lock you in too much. Like in Force of Will, for example, like if you want to play a green deck, you can play a green deck, but you can probably only mix it with a couple different colors to be viable. With Gate Ruler, you can mix and match quite a bit.
Cool. That's pretty awesome. I am going to put up on screen real quick an example of a card for those of you who maybe haven't seen it. FoW players are going to recognize this card art as Zeus Alice, but at least in the first couple sets of Gate Ruler, we've seen that Ikeda and his connection to I Spy have been licensing some Force of Will art. And yes, Steven, we do know that Emilio is having a little bit of a hard time connecting. His internet's kind of acting up today. We hope you bear with us. But as you can see here, this is kind of what a traditional kind of creature in a deck would look like. We've seen some reused artwork, and that looks really nice. But also some returning, like new takes on some characters that we've seen, like this. This is another different Alice card. Alice in Wonderland might even be an entire deck just by itself, which is for me very exciting. But they have a lot of other unique cards that are all very beautifully artworked, and new artwork, reused artwork, all kinds of cool stuff. In regards to Emilio, you talked about this idea of like the factions doing different things. Are there like clear identities to what these factions are doing, or is it more like synergies with one another versus like actually how they play? Like we think of like black as like the reanimator color, right? Is it like that in terms of identities for the factions, or is it more of like if you want these factions, they synergize well with each other versus with a different faction? Like how exactly does that work?
So it's not quite that restrictive.
Sure.
Each of the factions does kind of have like their own unique thing that they do. Like Volnar can do Genesis summoning and Abyss summoning, but those mechanics are tied to different archetypes. Like you'll use Wizards and Darkness cards for Abyss summoning, which is like reanimating from the grave, but you'll use like Warriors for the Genesis summoning, and they'll bring out big dragons. X-Vaders, there aren't a ton of cards for X-Vaders right now, but there's a lot of really strong removal. And then Majin Front has a lot of like just really big beefy guys. Thunderverse has a lot of like you'll get removal from each of the archetypes. You'll get big guys.
So not only are there factions, but there's also archetypes.
Factions. They mix it up quite a bit.
Yeah, so not only are there factions, but there's also archetypes, is what I'm hearing you say. That's pretty cool. I do kind of want to go through just a little bit we've got here on the screen. I'll bring it up. So like we said, just some of the information about some of the products. So we know that it's coming out later this month. April 30th, we have one of the 2 starter decks summon the Fell Dragons. This looks skeleton boy demon stuff. Like again, this artwork is absolutely gorgeous. for the new artwork, and obviously FoW artwork is great. We have another product which is giant mechs and yokai in space, which I cannot get enough of. That idea, that to me is just
Very fun,
hilarious, and I love it. And then the first set is nope, that's the field. Our first set also releases its Dawn of the Multiverse Alliance. Like, again, look at this giant dragon. Like, that just very cool looking. Similar kind of boxes as we're used to. Although secret rare cards are back and Ubers are back, which we'll have Emilio show off here in just a second. And then again, FoW players will recognize this card, but being repurposed, which to me is kind of like, I get it. That was kind of one of my hesitations maybe, but also at the same time, it's kind of nice to see card art just continue to be used in really cool ways. Which is cool. Very, very cool. I like it a lot. Go ahead.
I love the Force of Will art. I think it's good for bringing in new players. I just wanted to chime that in real quick.
Yeah, that too. Like new players who haven't ever played Force of Will, like it's just good artwork. Like,
did you lose me?
No, I got you back. You're good. I do kind of want to talk a little about, because I have it up on screen here. This is similar to people who maybe haven't played a buddy fight style game before, buddy fight, card fight, White Schwartz. Field design is pretty important. There's very specific zones for doing different things. And to that point, Emilio, I have the field up on screen. Can you kind of walk us through like what all of this means that we're looking at? Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not sorry,
You're good.
Just being crazy. So I'm going in blind here. I don't see anything, but it looks kind of crazy at first, but it's really not that bad. So the most important zone is the ruler zone. It starts in play immediately. It's always in play. A little bit different from Force of Will is that it can attack and be attacked immediately. On the ruler, you'll also notice a bunch of arrows pointing in different directions. The arrows pointing down represent the set zones, and then underneath the set, that's like your spell and traps for those who aren't familiar. And then underneath that, some rulers will have energy, which are like your stones or your lands. And then at the top of the ruler, you'll see two red arrows, which point to the two attack zone. The upper right attacked, protect your ruler from being attacked from enemy units. Off to your left, you're going to have the damage zone, and anytime you're damaged from an attack, and you have to check the top card of your deck, it will go there.
So this is a damage check game, similarly
exception of anything that has an ability when it's damage checked, but we can get into that. And then lastly is a very with like field spells. Yes.
Yeah, so this is a damage check game. You said there are field spells, which will obviously go into the field zone. Just to clarify, because you're kind of cut out here, we've got the 2 attack zones, which are your other ways to attack your opponent, but also the defense zone, which prevents your ruler from being attacked. The way you win in this game is by taking damage to the damage zone equal to the health of your ruler, right? So every ruler has a little different health, so the win con kind of shifts based on that, or deck out, which you mentioned before. So with damage checks,
yes,
which as Mike,
they're all balanced differently.
Yeah, as Mike can kind of attest to, so I'll let him speak to maybe his concern a little bit. You mentioned damage checks, and so I have some thoughts on those, but I also want Mike to kind of raise his thoughts and then have you kind of answer or talk about like your response to those maybe concerns for a player who maybe hasn't played a damage check game before or maybe has been turned off by them. Mike, you want to go ahead and take the floor there?
Sure. Yeah. Now I'll unmute myself so I don't have udon falling on my face. But yeah, I've played a lot of obviously a lot of games without damage checks, but also I've had friends try to get me into games with damage checks. It always feels like the deck is playing itself. I'm not playing it. That's my main concern with damage check games. So I'm interested to know how you think Gate Ruler takes a different approach to it, and how you think that it can alleviate some of that stress on a player that focuses on consistency rather than, random chance hitting the top of your deck and causing you to win the game out of nowhere.
So of course there's a little bit of randomness to it. That's kind of to balance the gap between more skilled players. I think they do important aspects of this game. Different rulers have counter limits. The counters are the cards that have an ability when they're damage checked. And any card that has the counter ability, they all do different things. Some of them are absolutely crazy when you see them in the damage. Other times they actually have no ability and they just go to the grave. So the counter cards themselves are balanced very well. But they were very careful with how it ties into the deck building and how it interacts with the rest of your deck going to want to run. And honestly, with how many you have out of decks, but 16 is the time. Most of the time, your damage checks feel very good and very consistent if your deck is built well.
Sure, so it's kind of a reward for good deck building, but also at the same time, some damage checks are just like negating the damage as opposed, or like negating that point of damage versus, what I'm hearing is that sometimes damage checks are just like stopping a point of damage, as opposed to sometimes damage checks are like actually having an impact on board state.
Yes, I think one of the funniest cards, and one of the ones that was talked about the most when Set 1 was spoiled in Japan, is a card called Haunting. Now, Haunting is a card that affects your level limits, and your ruler has a max level size that it can have for deck building, like 50. Haunting is a card that has -5 level. So if you have 4 Haunting in your deck is essentially 20 sizes smaller, which really opens up deck building a lot.
Oh, sure. So you're like other cards.
If at any point this card is... Yeah, if at any point this card shows up, you immediately take 2 damage.
Oh, so sometimes damage checks can hurt you.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. So that's cool. I've never seen that before in a damage check game. It's always been like, hey, look at me, I'm better.
Yeah, no, they really were careful with how they balanced the damage checks. The only time it really feels them and how much you draw in this game, that does not happen very often.
Oh, sure. So in Gate Ruler, what is the for a ruler that's not, so let's say like non-Highlander, right? What is the playset limit per card? Is it 3 or 4?
It's 4 typically.
Okay, so playset limit is traditionally 4. Deck construction, we're not going to talk about decks main or min because that's different per ruler. So right. Coming from Force of Will as the primary game, and you're also a Force of Will player, and so to speak to the Force of Will players who may be in the audience, in your mind, like, what are the big things that Force of Will players need to know about this game that might be like, hey, this can be like a secondary game or like a side game?
I think one of the easiest things is how affordable the game is going to be, and I think the entire idea of the ruler mechanic is going to be attractive to a lot of Force of Will players. In fact, one of the coolest things about the rulers is that they don't actually have any art on them, and this is so you can have like a custom art ruler and play with it. It's actually encouraged, and not only that, but when you have the ruler, it actually has a QR code on it that you can scan, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about that ruler, which I think makes it really easy for new players or Force of Will players to get into it.
So wait, I want to make sure I heard that right. So the rulers themselves don't have artwork on them, and as such, you're encouraged to make your own? As long as you have, I'm assuming as long as you have the real card. Is that accurate? Am I missing something there?
Yeah, it's actually encouraged as long as you know what the no. As long as you know what the card does, it's legal to use. When you're in something like an official tournament, it'll probably be at the discretion of the TO. But as long as it's not like NSFW art or something, you're probably fine.
That's okay. That's actually very cool. I know that one of
It's
the
on our budget,
I can
baby.
get my video to
well,
load.
but also I think that's cool because one of the
Here.
things from FoW Players is
So this,
I'll zoom in on you real quick. There we go. So that's a ruler.
okay. So you can see no art.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I dig that. I think that that's nice because like one of the big problems that FoW's always had is like availability of rulers, right? And so this game seems to have taken a very different approach and being like, hey, look, like we get it. Just print whatever you want. Like make sure you can actually play our game, which is cool. And I imagine they'll probably make like secret rare versions and stuff for their own fanciness because that's an easy way to do it. Do you have any other cool things to show us from the?
Yeah, rulers are actually commons in this game too.
Oh, okay, cool. Now I do remember you and I talking about the fact that Ubers have come back for Gate Ruler.
Lagging a little bit behind here, but this is an Uber Air.
Ugh. Potato camera.
Good timing.
Get
There
it?
we go.
Can you see it?
We can kind of tell that it exists.
Yep. Man, Uber's in that game really pixelated.
Yeah, that's weird.
It looks so much better on my end, I promise.
I'm sure. Oh, there we go. That's a good shot. That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's nice.
That's cool that those are back. I know that that's a big. I mean, I personally love Ubers, and it looks like Ubers are back in as main deckable cards, so that's pretty cool. So
Yep.
so the game's coming out later this month, April 30th. I know that it's been out in Japan for a bit, not quite a year. But there's already been talks about like an organized play system, some pretty major tournaments. You can get plugged into some communities. We have links in the description right now to talk about get plugged into their brain Facebook page and official website, as well as gaterealize.com, which is a really good community website that posts like spoilers and everything else as we've gotten pretty updated. Because right now they have spoilers up through set 3 already started, right?
Yeah, it's. I believe it is getting there. They just finalized the most recent starter decks. All of set 2 is revealed. I think they've only been the game's only been out for I want to say 4 months. 3 months.
And they're doing a expedited release schedule in English to catch up to Japan, so that then it can be like simul release from then on out.
Which I'm very happy about.
Yeah. Getting notifications from the different Gate Ruler communities now that we're plugged in. So, Emilio, you're for those of you who are new to the channel, with the coverage of Force of Will, we typically do this podcast on a weekly basis. We also do feature matches and deck profiles and box openings. Emilio is joining the channel as our Gate Ruler content expert. And as such, it's important for us to know from the community what kind of things you guys want to see. But as of now, Emilio, what are your thoughts for the kind of content that you're wanting to bring to people for Gate Ruler?
I would like to do some guides, easy stuff, how to play, that kind of thing. Definitely like matches, casual, meta, what have you, as well as pack openings, because I will be opening a lot of product for the game as well.
Yeah, because you own a store. Or opening a store.
I do. And we will be running Gate Ruler.
Yes, and I do want to put it forward that once we get up and running, that we will have links on every video this channel does regarding Gate Ruler to Emilio's store, so that you can pick up product.
Woohoo!
And if you're looking for that, so we'll be partnering with that. Odyssey Games will be focusing on the FoW side, and then Gate Ruler will be partnering with Emilio's store for that. So we're very excited to be having both of these partnerships.
Emilio, name drop your store.
So the new brick and mortar is Max Level Gaming. Currently, I have my old website that is up for pre-orders for Gate Ruler. It's clevelandcardresale.com.
Drop that in the chat.
Yeah, feel free to drop it in the chat for people who maybe haven't seen it.
Shameless plugs, but it's okay.
Shameless.
This is part of the channel.
It's all good.
I don't want to push the limits of my internet anymore.
He wants to stick to minimum stuff. So, I'm trying to think about what other things right now that we can kind of talk about. I didn't pull up in terms of like card database stuff. Different options. GateRealize.com has the full card release database.
I do just want to show the card back real quick.
Oh yes, the card back real
Ooh.
Quick, because it is.
Let's see
cool.
when your camera catches up.
Yeah, it'll get cut up. Just hold it there for a real long time, Emilio. We'll catch up eventually. It's thinking about it.
I love the card.
Nope. it's decided to die. Send it to me. Send it to me. There it is. There it is. Maybe.
Sick.
Nope. It stopped. There we go. Nice,
Yeah.
nice bright red card. That's pretty sweet. I'll tell you what. They designed some really freaking cool card backs. That's on par. To me, that's pretty on par with Forza Wheels. So I like that a lot. I'm interested to see if the chat has any questions. We've been talking about this for a bit. Again, new game.
Yeah, the card stock's also amazing.
Very,
Same
very typical.
thickness as Force Will cards. The world will never know.
We'll never know. I got 18. I got 18 people in the chat. Whether or not you're a new a FoW player looking at Gate Ruler, or a Gate Ruler player who's just getting plugged in, we'd really be interested to hear your thoughts or your questions that maybe we can get answered by Emilio. So feel free to drop those in the chat. To me, I just like I've looked at some of the card art and some of the factions, and it's like heroes in space, and some of it's very, very Japanese inspired with like yokai and like that kind of stuff. We also have like an army and like zombies.
Who doesn't like Zambies?
Who doesn't like zombies? Like,
I love Zambies.
it's a very anime, it's a very Japanese game for sure. But I'm looking
Art for everybody.
There's certainly card art for everybody. There's also, like we said, an entire Alice in Wonderland deck. So like that's just gonna be my deck. Like I don't care if it's good or not. We're gonna play it. Mike, you have any questions about it for Emilio, or thoughts on it now that we've kind of talked about it a little bit more?
I mean, at this point, I do like the idea of having. I know it's going to be difficult to balance. That's something interesting. I'm really curious in how they balance it, because I've tried designing games before with rulers that have different
Rule sets,
different rule sets, different themes to them. It's an interesting way to balance, and it's difficult to do, but done right, I think it's going to be really nice because it'll be unique, and it'll be something to make it that. If you play one deck, you feel so different playing another deck, and it's like you kind of get out of Force Will, but you get the good cards dot decks that you can always come back to. But like, if you're playing the Highlander, then you're like, oh, I guess I'm just playing one ofs, and certain decks can play legendary cards, certain ones can't. So it's like there's a lot of really cool stuff. I also want to point out that Apprentice says you may not have a hand in parentheses of cards. So you are allowed to have two human hands.
Yeah, no sacrificing your hands in order to play. Yes. Yeah. Important.
But I like the concept of it a lot. I really like the fact that there seems to be just like I like the idea of sticking to those factions the way they're doing. Like I really like how I'm gonna go off on a limb here. Original Hearthstone, back when it came out in like 2015, past the beta version, there was very clear identities to each faction. But at the same time, there's also cards that kind of bled into each other. Just like if one is bleeding to another's identity, it just does it worse than the other does. So I really hope we see that with this game, because I like that concept of like, yeah, you can have some of our identities, but it's just going to be kind of, worse. So I'm really excited to see how they do that.
I apologize. My chat is now suddenly just caught up with everyone. People have been asking questions, so I'm really sorry. So Gate Rulers gets Ubers instead of FoW. Yeah, unfortunate. Fantastic artwork. Cthulhu's in set 2. Yeah, the set Sundial, the set zone is kind of like trap cards, or spells.
I just want to say there's Space Knight of the Round Tables, and the Arthur can be played in this set. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Cool.
Jeremy, I better have gloves on my ruler. I have I mean, I'll be honest, right? There's a reason why. One of the reasons why we reached out to Emilio. Emilio first showed me the game a while ago, and then I found out that I Spy was connected to it. And I would be a fool not to leverage the fact that I already have connections at iSpy for here on the channel with Force of Will to try to be able to produce content for Gate Ruler. And as we did with Force of Will, the time to get in on producing content is as a game launches. So it makes way more sense. And the fact that Emilio is telling me that our rulers can be whatever art we want. I mean, if someone wants to do fan art of me with the gloves for my Gate Ruler, I'm for it. I'm for it. I'm not against it.
Let's talk about Satan.
Let's see. What are you doing with 3 tapped swamps? Sundial asks, Emilio mentioned the affordability of the game. Was wondering if he could expand on that. Do we know pull rates for Western release? And so we can figure out how many boxes for a playset.
Yeah, so the Western release is a little bit different in that we don't have 2 separate boosters. Japan has like the high-end like collector booster, and then their standard one. Instead, we have just like our standard booster, but it has twice as many cards in the pack. And with the way the case ratios work out, you be getting a playset of all the low rarity easily. So the game will have a collectability to it where the high end stuff worth money, the Ubers are worth money, they're desirable, is very easy to get and should be relatively affordable compared to other card games.
That's awesome. That's good to know. Says Sel Zaudo. I'm pronouncing it terribly. It'd be nice if demo decks are available as print on order through sites like NPC. Actually, if you go to the Gate Realize website, I believe they have like the sets that you can like print out as proxies to like start trying out right now. I know that the Gate Ruler community has been pretty heavily active on getting that produced. So if you want to try the game out, you can do that right now. And similarly to how Force of Will decks, demo decks are available through YY Card World and people like Southern Hobby and stuff like that, so are Gate Ruler starter deck trial decks. So I know that those are out, so you can follow that same process. We're actually going to be working on getting some advanced product here on Ruler School to do some videos about it, including the demo decks. So we'll be posting when we can get that up.
Woohoo!
Yeah, red backgrounds are cool. Toby's saying, how are the mechanics? Like we said, it's a little bit like Vanguard, a little bit like sorry, I say that purely in the sense that it's a damage check game with very, very, very specific placement.
Damage check game.
What?
Just saying. The best damage check game.
The best damage check game. Sorry, the best damage check game. But also, it's a game where I
never liked damage check games, but this one is by far the best.
But also, it's a game where like positioning of cards is very restricted and important. Similar to like Buddy Fight and those kinds of things. So it follows that same kind of line. How many structure decks does the first cluster will have? First off, this game doesn't have rotation, right?
Thank God.
It is an
No
eternal game.
rotation.
There's no rotation. Your cards will always be viable. And right now we're starting with 2 starter decks here in the US for the initial release. So there you go. How many copies of a card in a deck? Typically 4. Legends are 1. Starter. Do we know if a starter decks have play sets? Like, is it like full play sets of each card usable?
Most of the cards, I think there are a couple high rarity cards where you do need to buy 2 starters to get the full play set.
So kind of like the Alice, the Faria Melga starter decks. Where
Buy
you got,
2,
like,
get everything.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Midwest Chief, hey, we in here. Welcome. Glad to have you here, Midwest Chief, talking about Gate Ruler. I don't know why my chat has like now caught up. That I feel so bad for the first 20 minutes. I apologize, everybody. Yeah, definitely you can print stuff out ahead of time through Gate Realize or the Discord or the Facebook page to get stuff there. Same card stock as FoW and same printer. Probably the same printer, I would imagine. Especially for the English release because iSpy is connected to it. I can't imagine they would go to a different printer. And yeah, you can use Untap and you can play it on Tabletop Simulator as well, Steven. That is correct. I do. Greg Nevins is asking if drafting is possible in this game. I would imagine probably not.
Unless it's a generic
To
draft
my
rule.
knowledge, no.
Especially with the ruler system, that makes
I
me
don't
think that
believe
it
you
wouldn't
can
be
pull
possible.
energy out of a. Yeah, so the deck building, I don't know how you would balance it with draft. That might be something that the community can figure out.
We'll probably see like something like a fan-made draft.
If you
ruler
had
come out eventually.
2 boxes, I think you could pull it off.
Maybe. Cool.
Right.
One thing that I do want to speak on is this idea that I think for me entices me the most about deck building with this game, versus like scratching a different itch than like Force Will does, is the idea of level limits. Because every card in this game, Emilio, has a level, if I'm correct. And then at least units do.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
your commander sets level limits for how much from each faction you can even have, right? Or is it just an overall level limit?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there for me.
Yeah, sorry. The question was
There's a level limit for each ruler.
Is the level limit by faction or is it total deck level limit?
It is the total level of all of your
Okay, so it's not by faction.
cards within the deck.
So to me, that's interesting, because like that's something that FoW doesn't have. FoW's just like playset limit. Like it's always been that way, which kind of contributes to have good cards.deck, as Mike kind of described. So for me, not only having the faction potential limitations, but also the level limit deck building limitations also is enticing to me, because it definitely seems to push the focus of deck building not on just cram every single good card into a deck, because your level will not work at that point. So yeah, I'm excited about
That's
that.
exactly it. I think that'll be a learning curve for a lot of people.
Drive-based rulers have level limits, like Apprentice, but Knight does not have a level limit, Midwest Chief. So that's a different ruler, I would imagine.
Yeah, so like Knight, that's it's for a balancing reason. So like the drive rulers can just spam out big dudes for free, and if you could just play chunky boys all the time for free, that's not very fair. So to kind of balance that out, those have like a pretty strict level limit. Whereas something like Knight, you can kind of just play whatever you want.
Sure.
Because you're paying the cost for the card for Knight.
As opposed to just like dumping them out on the field. Does this
Right.
So typically, if I remember correctly from my experiences with Weiss and Buddy Fight and Card Fight, in terms of like actual player interaction, it was very, very nuanced as to when and what kinds of interaction we could do. So my question becomes, with this game, what is the interaction system like?
It is exactly the same as Force of Wills.
Whoa! A damage check game with the chase?
They call it the gate.
The gate. Okay, that
Yes,
makes sense.
so you'll have 3 different timings for cards, really. Technically more than, so you'll have your normal timing, which is just main phase. You have immediate, which is an instant, and then you'll have kind of like your random ones that will specify when they can be triggered or played. But anytime you respond to something like, say, player A plays a card and player B responds with an immediate, the player B card will resolve first, and then player A.
And then, so then the question becomes after that is like, we can respond back and forth. I know that there are like the set traps, cards, and spells. Is it like Yu-Gi-Oh, where like I have to set something down to be able to use it during my opponent's turn, or is that just a way to be able to play those cards as opposed to playing from hand?
No, so some cards can just be activated immediately without setting. They'll typically specify. A lot of them will say set like immediate, and then use this whenever the conditions are met.
Sure.
And if that's on the turn that you set it, that's fine. Some of them you just play straight from your hand.
Okay, that's cool. That's good to know that there is that kind of blend. Because with only 3 slots, it would get kind of weird.
Yes.
Yeah, so I like that a lot. Okay, cool. Thank you. Trying to see if we have any other things. Ikeda has mentioned that he's testing draft rulers before. That's good. R&D is by a new independent company called Dayu. They're probably also potentially doing forceful stuff if they're connected to iSpy at all. So that's kind of cool. Let's see. Seem to be good on chat questions right now.
I'm seeing something about the deck limit.
Yeah,
so
being 50?
The 50 card deck size is just on the current rulers. It's not actually like a rule in like the rule book. It's just on each of the rulers currently. They have a 50 card limit. There will probably be future rulers with different size decks.
Sure, that makes sense. Force Will has an energize mechanic where the player going second gets some kind of advantage or a way to be able to catch things up. In this game, because we have differences with people being able to play cards without cost versus with cost, everything else, is there anything like that for the person going second, or is it just you're just going second?
No, so if you are a ruler that has energy, so each
Oh, we're cutting out real quick.
for example, untaps 2, even though he has energy.
Say that one more time. You cut out a lot.
So even though he has, so Knight is an energy ruler, and even though he has 3 energy for his first turn of the game, whether he's going first or second, he only untaps 2 energy. And every turn after, he untaps 2. So your energies start and play
Okay.
immediately for energy rulers, at least currently.
Cool.
So there's no advantage for going second, unfortunately.
Okay, so no advantage for going second. That kind of answers that question. Toby, how is damage dealt to a ruler and or units? It's damage. That's damage check. So like when damage is dealt, like you have an attacker that's declaring an attack. I'm assuming damage. We'll talk about damage to a unit, but damage to a ruler, if it connects, you reveal cards from the top of your deck for the number of damage points that was taken. Check for any damage triggers, and then those go into the damage zone. For damage to units, is damage just like you have to just remember how much damage is on them and it persists until end of turn? Or
damage is till end of turn. Attacking units deal damage, but without a special keyword ability, units do not return damage back to the attacker.
Oh, so damage is one way.
Units, so without an ability, yes. So units will have attack, HP, and strike. The strike is the damage they do to the ruler when they hit, and the attack is what they do to other units.
Cool. So then follow-up question, you said damage is persistent until end of turn. how does combat work in Gate Ruler in regards to like, so in Force of Will, combat is just a decision that you can make as many times as you want during the main phase. For Gate Ruler, is it like main phase combat, main phase, or is it the same kind of thing where like I can choose to go into combat?
So Gate Ruler has 4 phases. You have the start phase, your main phase, your battle phase, and then your end phase. You cannot go in between main and battle.
And after battle, you
so
move
once
to
you
end.
decide to go into battle, I mean, you're set. You move to end phase, right?
Okay, cool. So I mean, that's important. That's an important distinction.
It is important to know that during the main phase, you can move units
to like from attack to defense and vice versa.
Yes, correct.
Cool. It's good to know. And I would assume that you have to kill the thing that's defending the ruler before you can strike the ruler. This has been fascinating.
Oh, sorry, I totally forgot to mention. Knight starts with the energy inactive. I don't know what the other rulers will end up doing.
Sounds good.
As far as energy goes.
Yeah, that answers that. So you starts with energy inactive, and then 2 recover every turn. So kind of it seems like max energy is 3, at least for now.
Currently, I imagine at some point you'll have rulers that will allow you to play energy or do weird things. I know Wizard in set 2 gets like a bonus turn.
Neat. But there are cards to recover energy. Thank you, Steven. This has been fascinating to me. Mike, what about you? I've been learning so much because I had a passing knowledge of this game, but knowing more and more about the mechanics and some of the decision making that the company is making in terms of like accessibility, creativity, flexibility, and balanced decisions based in like card design, deck construction, as well as like functionality of cards, like that has me pretty excited. I got to admit.
For sure.
Yeah, they're doing a great job right now.
Yep. I'm in the same boat. I'm genuinely curious. I don't know how this game is going to try to win me over as personally somebody who finds like I feel like a lot of players in the Force of Will community talk about how good Force of Will's mechanics are and how I'm in the mindset that Force of Will has like the best core set of mechanics out of any game I've played before. I'm very interested to see how that kind of influence kind of peters over into this game and how they change it up and how they make it seem different. Because obviously, like, you don't want the same game just made over and over again. So having something that borrows from a lot of different games, one that Ikeda has already, made for the most part.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we're talking about a game with, designed from somebody who's made stuff like Buddy Fight, which was a competitive version of Card Fight at that point. Like, it's very...
Yeah,
like it's going to be a very interesting dynamic.
To me, the more I hear about it, the more I talk about it and kind of understand the rules, and you've done a wonderful job through Potato Internet of explaining and answering all the questions. It's been very helpful. Like I feel like I've walked away like from tonight understanding this game on a much, much deeper level than I did going into it. Is like this feels like a game that will complement FoW in terms of like my enjoyment. Like I'm not like, do I think this is a game that's going to top FoW or like replace FoW in my heart? Absolutely not. But it feels so different that like it has enough to make me go, well, I like FoW. This thing has like similar kind of vibes in terms of like, hey, there's a lot of flexibility in your deck construction and your identity of your deck. Like that kind of same kind of vibe from FoW. But mechanically, it's so different that it's going to scratch a different itch. And that to me is super important when you're considering picking up a second game. Because like Mike said, you don't just want to keep playing the same game over and over and again. That's pointless. Especially in a TCG world, because then it's like, why are you spending money for the same game twice? That doesn't make sense. To me, this feels like it is going to be a much different gameplay experience that will be a nice thing to complement my gameplay experience from FoW. Like FoW is Magic. Like FoW is best like FoW is to Magic as this game feels to like damage check games like Weiss or Card Fight or Buddy Fight. And to me, those have always been so schismed and separate in terms of like play experience and overall kind of like vibe that to me, you're telling me, oh wait, the company I really like and the artwork that I love is finding its way into a game that's on the other side of that schism, so it's not gonna like overlap too much, but overlaps just enough that I feel a connection to it. Like that's great. Like that to me is very good.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. So something like Argent Saga, which took a lot of elements from other games as well, and not to knock other card games, but it really, to me, felt like it took too much. It was too derivative, and it didn't. There wasn't really anything fresh. It didn't scratch that itch. Whereas Gate Ruler does enough uniquely that ruler and the deck building that's just really fun.
Yeah, like it feels to me like this is a new game. It's not like there's so much to it as we've been talking about it that I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can compare that mechanically to anything else that I've played. Like I can, like I said, I can compare the fact that it's a damage check game. I can compare the fact that it has very unique unit placement, but like mechanically, I can't really compare it to anything else. Like it's its own thing, which is great. And like you said, with like Argent Saga was just like, oh, this is just Kaijudo with better towers, like with more selection of towers and a resource system that makes sense and an actual reaction system. Like you could you could tell that it felt like a reskin. Whereas Gate Ruler feels like very unique by comparison, which is cool. Going into the things is Visionary Gaucho, not being negative, but I think I'd just rather play Exodus TCG. I'll just say Gate Ruler's not for me. That's fine. And that's totally great.
Exodus, wow.
Somebody like you are like that's the beauty of card games, right? Is you can always do something different. But that's kind of what we wanted to have tonight to be able to talk about it and maybe drop, people who maybe didn't have this on their radar, to kind of know what it is, talk about what it is, to kind of get a sense of it. Says Waldo, second game for now is Netrunner. Again, totally great. Enjoyed that game, but now you know about Gate Ruler, right? Now you know, because before tonight you might not have heard of it, and that's what we wanted to hit up tonight. Can you deck out? Yes, you can deck out, and you lose if you deck out. Might buy the starter decks though. Yeah, I think starter decks would be certainly a way to easily at least be able to try the game. Yeah, it's good stuff. Thank you for all these questions and everything else. And to all of our people who have been our new or Gate Ruler people who are part of the community who have now found their way to the Ruler School YouTube channel. We hope you stick around because there's going to be a lot more Gate Ruler stuff coming up in the future alongside the Forcible stuff that you're so used to. There will be no drop in FoW content. They will just be complemented, much in the same way that Gate Ruler does not replace FoW, but complements it here on the channel. See how I did that? It's called synergy.
Indeed.
Flawless. Synergy. Yes, it's strange. Toby, Stranger, if you kill the ruler, you lose. That's the lose condition, is your ruler dies. So don't have your ruler die.
Don't get Black Moonbeamed.
Is it? Oh, here's a question, Emilio. On the competitive side, is there side decking or is it best of ones? Like this feels important.
I actually don't think it's been worked out for the US. To my understanding, from the events that I've seen, I don't believe there were sideboards, but I would have to imagine when the organized play is fully fleshed out, yes, there will be siding, but your sideboard will have the same restrictions as the within your main deck. Like it'll be kind of hard to figure out. Somebody can mention in the chat if they've heard anything as far as sideboarding goes, but I have
Midwest Chief,
not yet.
Enrolling into Ruler School now, definitely subscribing. Glad to have you here as a subscriber. Hopefully we do enough to earn your decision to support us as a member, and you can pick up your syllabus and report to class. But for right now, we're glad that you're visiting and subscribing and look forward to making more content for you. Brings more damage check players to FoW. Definitely is a good way to like, hey, this artwork is great. Oh, it's also in FoW.
I think you definitely could do that, yeah.
Online store are we using for decks in the USA? We're going to be working with Emilio's store, who currently if you want to put the what's the link? I'll put it in the chat right now. Your current store website, Emilio.
Oh, it's Cleveland Card Resale.com.
Card resale. Cleveland
If you
resale.
just go to there's a Gate Ruler tab for anyone that goes there. Yep.
Ta-da! ClevelandCardResale.com. You can currently get pre-orders for Gate Ruler. There will be a more finalized website once Emilio gets his shop up and running, and that's a place where you'll be able to pick up all the Gate Ruler content or all the Gate Ruler product there. So, potential for cash tournaments.
Already on the way.
I mean, that's pretty
Definitely
great.
happening.
That's pretty great. Cash money. Okay, note to self.
1K, 2K, maybe bigger.
That's pretty great. That's pretty great. We're hoping to be able to leverage our content and our connection with iSpy to be able to be the official streaming home of those major tournaments here on Ruler School. So, just saying. We already do it for FoW. Maybe we can get it for Gate Ruler too. But that, I think, is going to do it for us tonight. As I'm seeing the chat kind of starts to wind down, I do want to say a huge thanks to Emilio, both for joining the channel as our Gate Ruler professor here at Ruler School, and also for giving us a great rundown on the beginning intros of Gate Ruler.
Can call him the Gate Ruler adjunct.
Gate Ruler adjunct? Yeah, I like it. As always, again, we hope you enjoyed the content, and we hope you chose to subscribe. If you want to continue to support the channel in a financial way, you can go ahead and do that by joining as a member. Gives you access to all kinds of emotes. Currently, we're on a path to try to get to 100 members, and then hopefully by the end of the year, we hope to shoot to 150. But we hope you decide to support us that way. Regardless, though, we hope you enjoy the content. Feel free to check out our Discord server, which has a Gate Ruler section on it, so you can get plugged into our community down there. There's a link in the description for that, as well as the wonderful different communities already in place on Facebook and the website and everything else for Gate Ruler. Also links in the description there. So, until next time, this has been myself, DMO73, and I have been joined by the wonderful, beautiful Mike Rance.
I contributed nothing today, but I'm glad to be here.
Because you learned something and asked good questions, Mike. And that's why I bring you here.
What I do.
Hooray! And then also, for very much not the last time, soon to be many more times in the future, potentially on not Potato Internet, Emilio Griffin.
Usually not on Potato Internet. I'm so sorry.
And we will see you all next time. So until then, class dismissed.